Hello guys, Suffolk Hobbit, and I wanted to share some very special with you. This is my custom made Kill Team board. It's about 24 inches by 30 inches, gave myself an extra couple of inches rather than a recommended 22, and that's just for an extra bit of leeway really, just for a bit of extra length and a bit on the board. But yeah, 24 inches by 30 inches on a 6mm bit of MDF. Made a nice frame that goes all along the edges. Cut a little bit short there, unfortunately, but otherwise it sits nicely and fits nicely together. Nicely strengthened up the board. I've got roughly about an inch styrofoam, pink styrofoam, glued on to the MDF here, and then I've got a 2nd inch piece of styrofoam glued up on this side. And that is obviously to create a slightly higher sort of hill, rock-edged hill, with what clearly has a trench and defensive fortification built into it. It took about 12 hours to build this in total. I wanted to experiment with lots of different things. I've been working on through scenery that I've been building for my little ones, Thomas the Tank Engine Hornby set, funnily enough, and I want to start getting into terrain building properly as well. And yeah, come up with this. Well, where do I start? So, start off the drawing board, so literally drawed onto the wood itself. I wanted to have a river, I wanted a trench, and I wanted lots of space to put my scattered scenery onto, or buildings, whatever you want to call it. And I wanted a couple of craters as well, explosives. You know, kicked off, rockets have kicked off and exploded things. So I've gone for a couple of craters as well. In gaming terms, although these aren't that deep, you can only get sort of 2 or 3 miniatures in there comfortably. For gaming terms, I will class them as, you know, defensible terrain, cover terrain, even if the model doesn't completely stick out. Even if the model does stick out a fair bit, it's just sort of just adds to the character of it and stuff. You know, I'll just sort of accept that they're in cover because, you know, a bit of common sense. Obviously, the models would be, you know, if you're in real life, they're going to be diving, you know, hiding from the bullets and whatnot. So that's what they're there for. I literally, for the craters themselves, just used a long bladed standing knife just to dig out a few holes. A bit like when you're making butterfly cakes. I literally just carved out with the knife, and then using some very standard poly filler you'd normally use for screws in the walls and stuff, literally built up a nice little edge around both, as you can see here. Built them up nicely, let it all dry, painted over it with Citadel's scenic paint, the mud brown, can't think what you call it now. It's the sort of browny texture of sand. It's a texture paint. I've used that over all the craters and sort of muddy areas, such as like here as well, plain areas of the board as well, and also within the trench, which you'll see shortly. Once it all dried off, I then highlighted with a Mornfang brown, dry brushed, and then put some more PVA in and used sand and a few stones and stuff just to chuck in there. And if you look carefully, you can just see a very unfortunate Cadian head and an arm just there, from where the poor guy has been, well, obliterated. Poor bloke. Same over there, there's a Dark Elder body in there, which actually still needs to be painted for my sins. I do apologise, but yeah, let's give a bit more character to the craters. The grass is simply 2 shades of static grass, nothing special there. I haven't even used a static grass applicator, I've literally just sprinkled it on as and when I see fit, because again, this part of the board looks kind of boring, but the reason for that is this is where I plan to have quite a lot of my scenery pieces put onto the board to break it all up and stuff as well. Got a little gravelly section over here, PVA'd, and then used watered down PVA on top. Once the stones had sort of been sprinkled onto the PVA, watered down PVA, 50-50 mix, just to make sure everything's sealed on, and they aren't going anywhere, as you can see. Static grass a little bit loose in places still, that will happen. I have used a bit of a seal on it. I've used a Citadel matte varnish sprayed over the top of this just to help seal it in a little bit, but overall it's still a little bit loose in places, but I don't mind that. It's kind of what I expected. The worst of the worst comes with this, I can easily reapply it and stuff and use this board over and over again. That's the plan. Which way should we go? If we go in this way, we'll avoid the sun flashing onto it. So let's do the trenches. I might need to spin this possibly to capture the light better. I think I will do. Let's just spin it round. So here we have the trench. Very pleased with this. This took quite a long time to build up. Hope you can see it well there. It's kind of cool. Let me just tilt it a bit so we can catch the sunlight on it. Yeah, so there's the trenches. Really pleased with how this turned out. It took a long time to make it, and again, as you can see on the sides here, this was originally one piece of 1-inch board stuck on top, all glued up and dried off nice and heavy duty. And then all I've done is literally, I've got the firing platform running along there one side with boards holding it all up. Got a couple of firing posts as well. Don't know if you can see that, sort of focusing on the wrong bit there. There you go, got a couple of firing posts, one there, one there. A few green stuffed sandbags have been built as well, just sort of make it look a bit more built up. I've got mud built up as well there. Just trying to make some like hasty sort of defending battlement type things. Battlements, you know, defences. I've gone for some corrugated bits of metal that have been left sort of dumped here and there. Just sort of make it look the trenches have been made more, you know, they've been made in quick time. A few hastily pieced up bits of corrugated metal as well there. It's corrugated cardboard I've bought from a craft shop on eBay. And all I've done is I've literally just dry brushed it black. I've then gone over it with lead belcher. I've then gone over that with a light brown, I believe it is scrag brown. I've then gone over that with red, I think Mephiston red, and then I've then gone over that with Troll Slayer orange, really dried on brushes. And then for the metal inside the trench and a few other bits sort of chucked around, I've then gone over with a light green colour, Elysian green, sorry, light green colour to give a sort of mossy effect to it. It makes a bit of mildew built up in the metal. For the base of the trenches, I've used again some more filler. Oh, another one of my little pussycat hairs lurking in the trench there. Yeah, use some more poly filler just for the bottom. Then put PVA over the top, watered down slightly. Just sprinkled loads of ballast stones from my Litlands train ballast. Just sprinkled it all over. Still a few bits of filler showing through the paint. I'll have to go over it one more time. Yeah, but I've just glued that all over, and again I've not gone too heavy duty on the boards on the I mean the firing platforms would most likely have boards for the men in real life to actually stand on to shoot out from, but I've wanted to make this look a bit more hasty, a bit more rushed, a bit more, you know, they really have had to just quickly get on with this and make the best of it as best they can for a defensible position. Got a slope going down into the trench there, and yeah, really pleased with how this come out. Took a lot of work, a lot of time. I really enjoyed building it. I spent loads of time looking at pictures of trenches and modern trenches. You know, sadly the conflict we sort of have going on in where is it, Ukraine at the moment is still very much happening, and there's a lot of modern sort of trenches and haphazardly built trenches. If you look on the YouTube news report videos, you can get a plethora of inspiration from the poor blokes that are out there at the moment. So yeah, I used a lot of that, and obviously World War II things, World War I things and that. So yeah, it's quite interesting actually just to look up just from an interest point of view and from a modeller's point of view as well. Yes, the trenches, really pleased with that. This can easily host about 10 men. You can even get sort of a heavy weapons team in there if you position them carefully enough. After having done this, I'm quite inspired into actually making a full-on proper trench network for a bigger 40k table. So watch this space. Got a few flowers, a few little flower tufts I've bought from eBay from a modelling craft supply company. Just here, there and everywhere. I was going to put more on this side of the board, but again, there's going to be a lot of terrain sat here, and also even here there will be a little bit of terrain eventually sat there for a bit more cover save, affordability for the troops. So yeah, that's why it's a little bit sort of more bland in places. Another bit of corrugated metal there just to give a bit of something there for the troops to climb over maybe. And then we have the resin, the water resin. I'm so pleased with this. Now to make this, I literally used a knife, again nice sharp standing knife, a long bladed standing knife and a little sort of fold out shorter blade standing knife, like the 1-inch angled standing knives. And I literally just hacked out a huge section, not quite, although you can't see it because I've had to use filler on the edges, where I'll sort of get to that in a bit. There's a very thin bit of styrofoam that's left on the base here, going along. So it's about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch in, maybe a little bit more in places. And what I did is after that I then hacked along the sides to give that sort of rocky, rock edged effect along the sides. For the base, I PVA'd down tons of stone and sand, and even got some real bits of moss that grow in my garden, on the little stony corner that I have in my garden. Dried that off, and I've literally just, once it's all dried, once the PVA's dried, all the stones, all the sand, all the bits and bobs, I've then used some paint just to try and help make sure the edges are all sealed and stuff on the styrofoam, and then poured the resin on in 2 layers. Unfortunately, I did have some learning curve issues, which I've learned from now, and I did manage to redeem, so it's not the end of the world. And as you can see, there's a lot of filler spilling out underneath the styrofoam here, and even worse on the other side. The reason for that is I used cling film. I masking taped cling film to the sticky side of the masking tape, so the cling film would give a nice smooth finish when I peeled away the masking tape. Unfortunately, what I didn't think about was the fact that the cling film ran to further than when I'd sealed the styrofoam, so it got to about here, the cling film, and then I masking taped up all the edges really tight all along the board here, so I thought it was nice and flush. But unfortunately, as the resin poured on, it obviously poured along here and then snuck along the cling film next to the styrofoam. And of course, the problem being, it went behind and then decided to eat away at all the styrofoam underneath the water. So when I come back in a few hours' time to look, I thought, Christ, the river's shallow. Like here, there was no water at all. It was just a sort of shiny lacquered effect, and there was no water at all. And then when I looked at the sides, I was absolutely gutted because I realised what had happened. It was really disappointing, but I didn't let it beat me. Gave it a day to let it make sure everything else had dried off, because the rest had dried off fine. In the middle here, it was like it is now. It's lovely and, thickish water. I didn't want it to be a hugely thick, deep water. I just wanted a little bit of something, so I was happy with that. So I thought, right, I'll attack this again in the following morning. So I did. So I put filler, filled up all the gaps all along here, plugged it all up, and then I used just normal masking tape. It's going straight across. And I didn't worry about the finish on the sides here, just didn't worry about it, because I realised, as you can see, I haven't done it yet, I'm actually going to get a very thin piece of balsa or a very thin bit of MDF, painted black, cut to size, to sit along all the edges of this battle board to sort of seal it all up, keep it nice and strong, and protect the styrofoam on the edges. That's still to be done. I'll do that at a later date. So yeah, that's what I sort of realised I didn't need to worry too much about having a nice smooth finish here, because there was no point really. So another learning curve, but yeah, so I put a nice thick strong masking tape there, really sealed it up, made sure what I actually did is even sealed it slightly on the corners where the masking tape joined up, just to make sure it's a complete lock, and then mixed up another solution of resin and poured it on, and luckily it was quite a warm day, so it dried off in the sun quite nicely. And here is the finished effect. So you can see bits of the moss inside the river, I hope you can see it, it's coming out quite nicely I think. You can see all the sand, all the stones. It's come out really, really well. I'm really pleased. For my first actual sort of river effect, this has come out really, really well. As it was drying, I got another wooden spatula or stirry stick, ice lolly stick, and literally just sort of gently dragged it across the resin, just to give it a sort of rippled effect, which hopefully you guys can pick up on. It is there, even if you can't see it in this light. And yeah, it came out really, really well. And that's that. Another learning curve, sorry, I should probably just say, just in case you've spotted it, but I'll mention it anyway, is although this was all sealed down the PVA, and the PVA was completely and utterly dried, the resin did seem to sort of reactivate the PVA, and if you look carefully you can see sort of a whiteness within the stones. That's the PVA. It seemed to sort of bring out the colour of the PVA, it seemed to do something to it. I'm not quite sure what or how, but it did. And yeah, it sort of left a slight white residue. I'm not overly bothered by that, to be honest. I think it kind of adds to it, actually. It gives it kind of like a weird sort of foamy look to it, kind of a wavy look to it, so I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. It's a bit of a blag, to be honest. Don't know what you guys make of it. But yeah, again, I'm going to probably go for just purely a filler to seal and line the bottom of a styrofoam riverbed, and then probably just sprinkle the sand and stone on loose with no glue, and then go from there. Because I had watched, fun enough, afterwards Azor's Azorb YouTube video on the Buckleberry Ferry river scenery piece, and I noticed that he himself literally just poured the stones on loose. He didn't seem to use any glue, and he's relying on the resin to actually glue everything down, which makes a lot more sense. So again, it's a learning curve, but at least I know PVA does work to some extent. You know, for a super duper professional such as Azor's Azorb or a proper terrain builder, you may not want to use it, but it does work to an extent if you want to have that peace of mind that the stones will definitely stick down, if you're not so sure if the resin will do the job or not. So yeah, that's the board, 22 inches by 30 inches, like I say. Lots of bits to look at, lots of things to inspire you to play with. What I'll do is I'm just going to quickly get some terrain, chuck it on, to give you guys an idea of what it looks like with the terrain on, and I'll be back in 1 second. Right then guys, and here it is with terrain added. So again, like I say, quite an open expanse piece here in the middle here, but that is where you'd have more terrain. Like I plan on having some tank traps. I've actually got some very small pieces of terrain from these buildings, which I could put here. They're just not fully painted yet, so I don't want to put them on to sort of spoil the look of the board as it is. But yeah, this is obviously going to be lots more terrain stuff, so this wouldn't be an open ground area for a shooty army team here or up there to just annihilate anyone trying to run across this piece here. Got a bastion sat there, all in the trenches, so it looks quite nice. The river, again, I've actually made some bridges for, but again, I need to paint them up. So you got the options of having sort of a thing where they're sort of protecting the bridge, they've got to try and cross the bridge whilst under fire, or if not, you could simply use the river as tough terrain to sort of wade through, sort of thing, which would look pretty cool. Yeah, but that's what it looks like with a couple of buildings just quickly chucked on. As you can see, this is what I meant by the using this area. This area is obviously going to be the real sort of terrain dense area for buildings and whatnot. That was the plan for this. That's why this is quite a flat area, and you can see hopefully why I've done that. And of course, all the different buildings that I've made and all the different things you can do. You can have this like little manufactorum area, you can have like a little industrial sort of defence sector there, or even vice versa. You'd have a couple of worn out buildings there, or just have a massive open area and simply have a team running from there trying to get across the river to attack the people in the trenches, just for all out carnage, war and gunfights and stuff. So yeah, so hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think. It's been an absolute blast doing this. I've really enjoyed making this. I've had a few people say to me now about would I be interested in making this for them, something very similar, or something if they've got an idea, let me know and then I could try and make it for them. That's something I'm definitely interested in. I'd have to sort of look into it a bit more myself, to be honest, but price wise I wouldn't charge a huge amount, to be honest, because I'm not a professional, but I'll do a very good job for someone if they wanted to pay me to do it. But it could be something for the future for definite. But yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and I've had an absolute enjoyable, just awesome time building this. I really have, and it's really whetted my appetite to build a hell of a lot more stuff. I think a few Lord of the Ring scenic boards are in order, I think. Amon Hen, maybe? Yeah, could be awesome. Nice one. Thanks for watching, guys. Always appreciate it. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.